Ciao Juventini, and welcome back to the All JuveCast channel. Of course, brought to you by Striped Hearts Apparel, and we are in the Striped Hearts / All JuveCast lab. You can see over my shoulder the new Baggio design, which will be out very, very soon. And yeah, we come at you with episode 110. I've got my man Antonio join me today, and we are going to preview the upcoming Serie A season. We've got a ton of great questions from Juventini on Twitter. And again, if you're not following me on Twitter, please do. That's where all the discussions commence. And then we get you on the podcast too if you want to be a guest. But yeah, we've got a lot to cover, and this is going to be a great, great episode. Antonio, how are you doing, man?
Alberto, I'm absolutely fine, my friend. Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure to have you back. We had a lot of fun the first time, and we're going to have a lot of fun on this one. And let's get going right off the bat here with the ridiculous carousel that's been going around with Suarez, Edin Dzeko. Milik is also in the mix here and whatnot. So as we record this episode, the news has broken out that Edin Dzeko will be the man for Juve. And it was all set to be done. While this was happening, Suarez has apparently passed his exam in Italy. He was in Perugia. So he's lingering around. He was questioned. Is there a possibility of joining Juve? He answered, yes, the possibility is there. We were all expecting Dzeko's going to be signed. It's going to be done. He might be in the lineup versus Sampdoria coming up in the first match. Well, the news broke out today that Edin Dzeko is in Roma's lineup for tomorrow facing Hellas Verona. And some of the news that came out was that Milik apparently has fines that are unpaid that are owing to Napoli. So Napoli's shutting down the transfer to Rome. It's just a mess. It's an absolute mess. I want to get your thoughts on this whole carousel and, are we making the right decision? We'll talk about the transfer fee, which was around 17 million for Edin Dzeko, and just what your thoughts are overall with this decision. Should it be Dzeko or do you think it should be Suarez? What are your thoughts here, Antonio?
First of all, it's just crazy everything that's going on, all the names that have been mentioned. I think you can take with a pinch of salt a few of the names that have been thrown about. I think the ones that were concrete were always Dzeko, Suarez and Giroud from Chelsea. Obviously, we shared this opinion on our conversation for the week. I'm a big Luis Suarez fan, not of the way he is as a man, but obviously as a football player. I think he brings so much to the football team. But I think it's no surprise that Pirlo's opted for Dzeko way back at the start. I mean, he's made it pretty clear publicly as well what's that number 9 in. But I think Dzeko would fit in perfectly, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing that separated was just the different styles, and that's how I was looking at it. And I was thinking, like, my reasoning for not wanting Suarez was I see it, granted he's a higher quality than Higuain, but they're the same style almost, right? Yeah. It's just you get better execution from Suarez, a little more lethal for sure. But at the end of the day, if you're making that switch financially, it doesn't really make sense. You're getting rid of one to bring in the another with the same traits, just a little bit better quality, but still an aged closed-end deal. The thing that separated Dzeko for me was he was a little bit more well-rounded, in my opinion. A better setup guy, strong at the hold-up play, but he adds that aerial threat, which I think is crucial for Pirlo. Because you don't get that with Higuain and you don't get that with Suarez. And it's really the only thing that separates him amongst all the others is that he's a beast when it comes to volleying the ball too and those aerials, right? And I know that a lot of Juventini are, and rightfully so, talking about how poor our crosses are and whatnot. And I think what's going to change is the way Pirlo wants to play, we should be getting the ball in. He's looking to get wide and in behind with those wing backs to get more dangerous crosses, right? Our
Yeah,
crossing before was labeled. So even if it was a decent cross, it never really looked dangerous or harmful because of the slow tempo and the fact that they were labeled. I think style, how we play, and where those crosses are going to start coming from will actually change. The biggest thing being tempo, because our
yeah, yeah,
crosses before playing such a slow style, of course they wouldn't look dangerous. The team was completely set up that we were facing. We were just crossing in and hoping. And the other thing was we weren't committing enough people forward. That's obviously going to change. And it was one of the main key points in Pirlo's thesis, which we will get to. Um, the other thing is we've got Higuain that's finally done and dusted. He's gone. Now, we had to take an 18 million euro hit to make this happen. Um, the thing with the Dzeko deal too that is still kind of lingering and hurts is that apparently it has nothing to do with Mattia De Sciglio leaving, which kind of sucked because you wanted to see that in part of the sale. Edin Dzeko,
yeah.
17 million euro fee to bring him in and about 7 million on salary. What do you think about those numbers, Antonio?
I think just go back to the whole De Sciglio thing. I think we're destined to have this guy until he's ready to retire. I mean, it looked as if PSG were interested in him last night because of the injury to Bernat. Gianluca Di Marzio, he obviously posted it on his social media saying that PSG could be a potential suitor for him. But with the injury to Sandro, it looks as if he's probably going to be blocked as well. The figures, I need to agree with you and everything you've said. Thinking back to the style of play as well, one thing I noticed, especially against Novara, I know we'll talk about that. I think a lot of teams last year and especially this year, they're going to park the bus against us. So if we're going to flood the midfield and have those overload on the wingers, potentially playing with 5 of the wingers down each side, we're going to need that big, powerful forward who's used to playing with his back to goal and act almost as a wall for these guys. Because Suarez, Higuain, and Dybala, when he plays in that role as well, they give you, they don't give you this. Dzeko does give you that. And let's face it, the guy scores goals. He's done it for years in Serie A. I think this year it would only been 3 behind Ronaldo if it wasn't for all the penalties that Ronaldo scored. So the track record's there. De Sciglio's, it's a hard one. I don't think it's anything to do with the Dzeko transfer. I think we're just trying to make some money. We need to move some of these guys. I've seen the financial report for the year. We're on a £90 million loss. €90 million loss, there or thereabouts. So we need to kind of balance these books up. I've got a wee theory on Dybala, as I say. I still don't think there's something going on there with Dybala. His agent's been in Turin reportedly. I think he arrived there 3 or 4 days ago. And with all this talk of these number 9s coming in, Suarez, Dzeko, Dybala's agent being in Turin, but nothing's been said about the renewal. I just wonder if he's going to be that guy that might listen to offers. I know Manchester United were sniffing about him being here in the UK. I'm hearing a lot of that again. And they'll look like the most concrete side that might actually make an attempt to go for him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's a theory that's been buzzing around there with many Juventini is the fact that this extension hasn't been completed yet, which is absolutely shocking. And the only reason I could think of that is why would they agree to an extension which would see him get a higher salary? Because then it would be harder to move him. And they are going to be looking to write the books, and it's probably going to be a sale. And he's got big value, and they've got a big deficit to try and correct. I hate it personally. I don't think Paulo Dybala should go anywhere. Obviously, this whole thing about bringing in a 9, for me, I've been saying for a while, I think more than anything, right back was critical for us to go out and sort out. De Sciglio needs to be sold. It was one of him or Danilo that for sure had to go. Quadrado can stay around because he's a utility guy. You can, use him in multiple positions. But between one of De Sciglio and Danilo, one of them's got to go. And it ain't going to be Danilo with what they brought him in for on that deal. You're just not going to move this guy. And again, that's just part of the business they've been doing. So for me, right back was critical and another midfielder. I thought if they were going to bring in a 9, you know, you try and make a swap, bring Moise Kane back, look for some type of bargain that you can get just in behind. And the talk about this need of a number 9, because Mandzukic and Ronaldo, and when he had that 9, well, to be honest, he had Dybala for most of last season, and he put up better numbers. Ronaldo had a great season last year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
agree.
and
Yeah,
my theory with Dybala that it concerns me is what's going to happen in this 3-5-2. He plays in behind those two forwards. It could go either way, but if we start doing something where he wants to work Kulishevsky or Dybala off the wing, I just don't like Dybala coming off the wing. But
no.
we'll see what ends up happening, what Pirlo ends up doing. But I've got some serious doubts about Dybala and how we can get the best out of him, because we started getting the best out of him in that secunda striker with Higuain there. They were forming a good partnership, and it got abandoned before we could build off anything because Ronaldo came in. And Ronaldo, we might not get the best out of, well, we'll get the best out of the ball, but we might not truly build around him until Ronaldo goes.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Ronaldo is always going to be that focal point.
Yeah, of course, man.
And the thing with Higuain too, that we talk about a lot of fans, that discussion's coming up again now that we take that hit. Was that the right move at the time? 90 million euros to get Higuain. And I think about it, and I've been saying this for a while now, that's when our unbalance on this squad began. Because when you look at the guys we were losing, Pogba, Vidal, Pirlo, what did we do? We brought in Higuain. We had Morata, who was actually a killer for us. He fit in good. We could have paid half the cost we spent on Higuain to keep Morata and have money left over to really plug in some pieces. We spent more than 85% of the Pogba money on Higuain, and we had those kind of guys leaving the team. I don't see it. What we do, we brought in Pjanic, but we changed his position completely from when he came from Roma, and we were banking on him and guys like Sturaro, Lemina, Hernandez to pick up the slack for those other guys, and it just wasn't right. It just wasn't right. And people argue that getting that world-class striker was the right move, but 90 million euros, 30-year-old Higuain, just to cripple Napoli when we had roster gaps, right? And that's the thing. But in the same argument, you have many Juventini saying it all started because of Ronaldo. They couldn't afford Ronaldo, and this 30 million euro he gets a season, plus a bit on top, is what's crippling us. Well, your hindsight's 20/20 all the time, and it's tough. Depends how you go to look at it. But I was saying at the time, I don't know if I liked that 90 million euro on Higuain because of the other gaps we had to fill. It just didn't suffice to me. But the thing with Ronaldo is, and I still say it, at that fee, granted it's a really high salary, but the fact of the matter was where Allegri was taking us year in, year out, had me believing Ronaldo would be that final piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I say you make that move every day. You make that move for Cristiano Ronaldo. What are your thoughts about this and this discussion going around? Higuain, was he worth it? Is that where the imbalance start? Oh, that was the right decision. Was signing Ronaldo the wrong decision? And, you could argue that now, but at the time, if I go back, would you do that again? Would you sign Cristiano Ronaldo again?
Oh, that's a tough question, Alberto. Oh, wow. I think going back to what you said there about Higuain and Pjanic, you were spot on. Obviously, we crippled the opposition at the time. Napoli and Roma were our major contenders, so essentially we've took Napoli's best player off them, and we've also weakened Roma by taking Pjanic off them. But again, these were all moves made by the club and not necessarily what the manager would request. a bit like, I think you could probably say Conte done the same. I think the reason Conte and the board came to blows is because Conte requested players that met his needs and met his style of play. I think Juventus for too many years now, we've just been buying players without actually speaking to the staff, speaking to the coach to see what he didn't necessarily want. I think that's why one of the reasons we should have maybe given Sarri a chance. I'm glad to see the guy go. I'm all for the change. I'm all for this new dynamics. But it would have been nice to see a new season with potentially the players that Sarri wanted. Ronaldo, it's such a hard question to answer. I mean, I think Ronaldo's brought Juventus to a different level off the pitch, and he's still got another 2 years left in his contract. Is it 1 year, 2?
I believe he's got 1.
He's got 1 year, so he's got one more crack at it, and then we could probably sit down again in a year's time and make our minds up. I say so. At the moment, yeah, I would say we'd do it all over again, just because he's not quite finished. And I think if we're going to do it, I said the same last year, but if we're going to do it, I think it's going to be in this last season we've got Ronaldo.
Yeah, I think your comments on Sarri, I think it was evident he did not have the locker room, and I think honestly, even from one friendly with Pirlo, you could tell this guy's got the players on his side. And it's a hell of a lot easier. And you factor in our financials, which we've been talking about, is a hell of a lot easier to make that switch than the players we want to. We wouldn't be able to provide Sarri with what he would be demanding. So if he can't do something with this group of guys, and Pirlo believes he can, with minimal changes, I think you just got to make that move. And Sarri clearly did not have the guys. Those comments afterwards too, saying that the team is untrainable.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
I can't get behind that, right? So crazy. The Mercato as a whole, the rating, so far up until this point, how would you rate Juve's Mercato? We've obviously brought in McKennie on loan with option to purchase. We've got Kulishevsky in the lineup. We possibly have a deal wrapping up Dzeko. And we have obviously taken our lumps in terms of Matuidi, Higuain, and potentially Kadir as well, right? Obviously, those weren't sales. Took a big hit on Higuain and whatnot. But how would you rate this Mercado so far for Juve?
I think it would give us, people might laugh here, people might question it, but I would give us a 9 out of 10. And the reason I say that, the last podcast you and I done.
I missed Arthur as well. Obviously, we had that great piece of business with Arthur. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, the last podcast you and I done, I think it was after the Juventus, the Cagliari-Juve game. One of the things I've touched on, and I'm glad to see it actually starting to develop, we had so much deadwood to shift. It was almost impossible. It was impossible to shift every single one of them, because with so many, and plus it's a post-COVID transfer market, there's not a lot of money going around. But when you weigh it up, we've shifted Matuidi, who was finished, as you say, potentially Khedira, Higuain, and Pjanic, and we've brought in Arthur, 24, I think, full Brazilian international. Before the change at Barcelona, he was fundamental in everything he'd done. I watched a few Barca games. He was phenomenal. Obviously, McKennie, he was a bit of an unknown source, but again, he's young. People speak very highly of him. And Kulusevski as well. So we've really freshened things up. We've brought a lot of dynamic. We've brought a lot of energy. As I say, so when you weigh it up from our going outs and our coming ins, I mean, you need to be optimistic. My only concern will be, depending on what formation we play with, if we're really going to go with this 3-5-2, I just don't see how we can adopt this formation every single game without a guy playing. Obviously, Cuadrado is playing right wing back. If he gets injured, who plays that position? It's surely not going to be Chilio, and it just can't be Danilo. It's just not going to work. So, but yeah, I think I'd definitely give us a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, yeah. That's
Why not?
Very, very strong rating. I mean, it's crazy to see you talked about our loss, our deficit that we're facing. It's crazy to see that number factoring in the positive that Arthur deal had on our
Yeah,
books.
of course.
That's crazy. That's crazy to me because if they did not make that piece of business, think about how absolutely crazy a situation we would be in.
Yeah,
You would have zero option at this
yeah,
moment in time but to absolutely sell Paulo Dybala. You would have no choice. There were links also, some rumors right now floating around that there's some interest in Alexandro. And
you've got
I've
to
been
take it.
saying for a while, I would make that move.
Oh,
I would make
100.
that move, get the positive in the books, use them. You could work around that. Even if it meant keeping DeShilio for cover. I personally think Luca Pellegrini is going to have that guy's job in about 2 months' time,
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah,
That's my
yeah,
personal opinion. We'll get into that too. But this rating so far, we've spent minimal amount of money. We've spent very minimal amount of money, but we got younger. We got Kulishevsky. Okay. We got Arthur replacing Pjanic, which had to happen. We've taken our lumps on the deadwood, but we're finally moving away from those guys. Um, and the possibility of Dzeko joining as well. The guy's a threat. He'll score goals. There's no
oh
question.
yeah,
And he's going to demand attention. Big man up top. Hopefully work to our benefit and free up these other guys. Um, are there some question marks about the lineup, how you're going to work it formation wise? Absolutely. But it's a good discussion and it's a good issue to have because now you have options. You have multiple ways that you can approach matches and opponents. We did not have that. Last
no,
year, we had no options. Even in the midfield now, when you've got guys with different characteristics, you
yeah,
can work those three in the middle. Should you go 3-5-2, which it appears Pirlo wants to go with, or even when he's in 4-3-3, they shift to a three-man line at the back in order to maintain pressure and keep the press on up top, which makes perfect sense. We have options now, and I like that. And we've spent minimally. Do we still have a deficit to face? Do we still suck at selling? Yes. But we're trying to right the wrongs of many, many years ago.
yeah,
And I fully anticipated this. But to make the acquisitions we did, be smart about it. And the biggest thing, something I've been talking about so long, the acquisitions make sense. They do. People don't agree with the Dzeko one. They think that one doesn't make sense. They're talking, why didn't we keep Mario Mandzukic? Well, to be honest, Mandzukic was, it sucked how he went or whatnot, but honestly, he was on higher wages and he's not as well rounded as Edin Dzeko is,
yeah.
in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree, Jack.
Opinion, you would have taken the two. And honestly, we lost Mario. Ronaldo had a better year statistically.
Yeah,
So we got to factor all this in. Edin Dzeko for me, I think out of all our targets, would he have been my top one? No. Out of the ones that were realistic financially, I think he's probably the best fit, to be honest.
yeah,
Just my honest opinion. I rate us at about an 8 so far. 7.5, 8, probably 8 so far in the Mercado.
why
Uh,
not?
we had to take the lumps on those guys. It is what it is. Had to happen. Do I want to see some sales? Yes. Would love for another move, but I'm honestly, I wouldn't be terribly concerned with the team we have going in because I've been saying it for so long. The formation, the tactics, the style is going to help us the most. Our biggest thing is staying healthy. The three man at the back
Yeah,
thing, we'll get into that more a little bit now. Obviously, we have the friendly that we played against Novara. And my God, man, it was about, I can't even remember how early it was in the morning for me. Um, I believe it was 1:30 a.m., somewhere around there. But what a treat for what I was going to witness. I know it's Novara, but I was happy to see immediately Pirlo getting what he wanted out of the
Yeah,
player.
yeah,
That was the thing that stuck out to me the most. The pressure, the ability to win the ball back, everything he was talking about, was working. And Novara was pressed back. They were sitting back. We were still getting opportunities. We were fast tempo ball move. We were letting the ball do the work, the 1-2s. It was great. What were your thoughts on that friendly?
it's interesting to see a lot of Pirlo's pre-press conferences leading up to the Navarra game, where he used Conte's first 2 years at Juve, when Pirlo was obviously a main focus point, and obviously they used the 3-5-2 formation. Loads of energy. The second they lose the ball, they were trying to win it straight back. So I think he's trying to mould his first kind of Juventus days almost round about the first couple of weeks, months of Conte's reign, because I can see a lot of comparisons here. I know where he's coming from, and especially during almost instantly in the Navarra game, those ideas were implicated. Sarri took so long, and the guys just weren't buying into it. Pirlo, within minutes of a friendly, all the guys seemed to be buying into it. Lots of energy, just an enthusiasm round about this. You can see them joking around, and Pirlo's obviously got that calmness about him as well, where he's obviously, he doesn't need to shout to get his message across. But yeah, I took a lot of positives from it. Don't get me wrong, you did say, well, due respect to Navarra, that I say the cheese side, but there was a lot of positives, and we need to kick off and we need to continue from where we left off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously, Pirlo just recently passed his exam. He gave his thesis on football and passed. So he's, fully certified now. That was obviously still a question mark too that was lingering there. I don't think there was anybody having any doubts whether he would pass or not. And he actually provided his thesis at the same time as Montero as well. Ex-Juventino, obviously an absolute beauty. But Pirlo's thesis, this was one thing that struck me is everything he's been talking about, what he believes in, how he wants to approach the game. We saw so much of it in such a short period of time already. And when you look back at what we've been getting these past couple seasons, it's just, I can't help but be excited because it's been such a short period of time. And against Novara, you saw a lot of what he wanted already. He talked about it, winning the ball back when we lose it, owning possession, the high defensive line to support the attack, which he wants to always attack with minimum of five. Fantastic. How many times against Novara did we see all of our midfielders in and around that area, getting in positions to take shots, working 1-2s? It's a hell of a lot harder for a team, even if you're sitting back, even if you're parked the bus. We have players all over there. And when they try to survive and get it out there, with the 3 men at the back, it makes perfect sense because that's how you're going to clean it up. We essentially completely isolated Novara because we played that high line, which supported our midfielders getting up, which naturally made it require less energy from our forwards and mids to keep the press on the opposing team. How many times over the past couple of years have we watched Juventus press an opponent and it's so easy for the other team to get out because, number one, we're keeping our defense back and our mids, we're running 3 mids. And how are they going to track all that ground? It makes no sense. So Pirlo's, flooding the midfield and pressing that defensive line up makes perfect sense in order to supplement what he wants to do and support the forwards. How often have we seen forwards come so far back? We didn't need that against Novara because it just naturally flowed.
Yeah.
We saw those wing backs. Pellegrini looked great. He stayed wide. He was that option all the time. He was keeping a defender right out of the question. And you know what? When they got sucked in, he was wide open. We switched the ball. That's another thing I started seeing. How many times we were switching field quickly, the tempo. It's great. These are all things he touched on his thesis. We already saw Juve try to implement so much of it in one friendly. I can't help but be excited for the season, you know. And of course, we've got Sampdoria coming up on the weekend. Okay, and with the projected lineup is already out for Pirlo. Okay, his projected lineup is a 3-5-2. Right away, you have a lot of Juventini that are skeptical about the 3-5-2 because of going back to Conte and Conte's inability to do anything in Europe. I don't think you can attribute that to just a formation and say 3-5-2 will not work in Europe.
No.
I disagree. I think, you know, it's tough to say with Conte and Europe and whatnot, but I will not tie it down to just that formation and say it doesn't work. You know, there's just a lot of factors. I'm not going to say Pirlo will not get it to work because it's a 3-5-2. If he can utilize all our guys and maximize Cristiano Ronaldo out of this, if all of a sudden our wing backs are fully engaged, and who knows what can happen. I'm not going to write it off because he wants to play in a 3-5-2. I just don't agree with that. I'm going to let it go. His initial lineup projected: Szczesny in goal, Chiellini, Bonucci, and Danilo as your three center backs. Quadrado, Pellegrini as your wing backs. Sandro has picked up a knock. You've got Rabiot, Bentancur, and Ramsey as your three midfielders, with Kulusevski and Ronaldo up top. Very, very close to what I had as my kind of lineup and what I would do. I had Szczesny, Bonucci, Chiellini, Demiral. I had Quadrado, Pellegrini as my wingbacks. I had McKennie as that in front of your center backs midfielder, pushing Rabiot and Arthur up on the sides. And then I had Kulusevski, Ronaldo up top. You know, what do you think about his projected starting lineup? And is it very close to what you had, Antonio?
In fact, you and I predicted the same lineup. We actually had the same personnel. I think just touching on a couple of phrases ago, you mentioned the 3-5-2. One of the biggest concerns last year for me was the amount of goals we conceded. So the 3-5-2 and obviously Igor Tudor coming in, I'm hoping that can be addressed, because obviously the three centre-backs, as you say, there's always that spare defender there to cover the midfield if they're breaking forward, as I say. But in terms of formation, I agree with Demiral not starting. I still don't think the guy's 100%. I mean, he was picked for Turkey, but I don't think he played. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he actually played for Turkey. I think he was just picked. So I wouldn't have started him. I get it with the Danilo thing. I've watched him play over here in the UK with Manchester City before, operating as a kind of third centre back in the right, and he looked okay. Technically, Danilo's very good. I mean, I can't fault him in that. He very rarely loses the ball. Obviously, the jury's still out to see if he's a centre back, but time will tell. The one thing I'm concerned about, as much as I love the guy, is Aaron Ramsey. I don't know if he's maybe. I mean, obviously, this is just a projected lineup. It might not be the final 11. We need to see. We need to wait and see. But Aaron Ramsey, I watched him against Novara. He did look healthy. He looked up for it, but he's just still a concern. The guy looks as if he's just ready to go down at any minute, injured. And can we afford that this season? So yeah, but in terms of lineup, 100% agree with what you're saying. I think that would have been my starting lineup. But listen, there's another 48 hours before the game kicks off. A lot can happen. A lot can change.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, to touch on what you're saying, Demiral did put minutes in for Turkey. Yeah, he's fit. He's good to go. The Danilo thing, yeah, I don't know. I mean, against Novara, sure, he did just fine in there. But, I mean, well, time will have to tell. I think the big thing, when you factor in what Pirlo said in his thesis with the center backs, even the goalkeeper, okay, he's talking about absolutely everyone playing a role in the buildup, in the attack, in the ways they attack. And to me, right away, the three center back, I'm looking at Bonucci.
Yeah, he's
In,
fundamental.
instantly, I'm thinking about Bonucci, and I'm thinking, finally being able to utilize the one thing that everybody's been talking about with him for so long, which is spraying that ball around,
Yeah,
turning interceptions, turning winning the ball into counters. Okay,
yeah,
via long ball splashing around. Pirlo talks about it in his thesis. He also talks about the goalkeeper being able to play the ball, being another player on the pitch, sometimes even abandoning the area to do so. So he's really looking at him as being that piece, like a pivot, and using him quite a bit. So I'm looking at a lot of switch field, and hence also makes sense why people may want to shoot down the 3-5-2. But if that's what you're looking to do, Pirlo is clearly looking to keep that width and to gain space as quick as possible on the opponent. Okay. So even if you have a team that's sitting back or whatnot, eventually they have to come at you with something. But if you keep that width,
yeah,
it's the one thing we just haven't naturally had for quite some time.
yeah. And
And not how long have we waited for this team to have a counterattack? The
yeah,
things Pirlo is saying make sense. Danilo's a center back. Yeah, I'm not really sure. We'll see. But I'm really looking at Bonucci in this. And if we can finally maximize his ability to play those long balls. And let's look back as when we had the BBBC, Bonucci was at his best. I'm going to be looking at him this season. Bernardeschi as a wingback. You talked about Quadrado. What happens should he go down? Even Pellegrini, should Pellegrini go down? I mean, you're looking at a couple options there. Bernardeschi being one of them. How do you feel about Bernardeschi being in a wingback? I mean, I know a lot of us feel his time's got to be done with Juve. The deals aren't going to happen. They're definitely not going to happen this Mercado. I can't see it happening with what we want to get out of it financially. So you keep him. How do you see him fitting in as a wingback?
honestly, truthfully, I would love to see him play left wing back. I've said it for so long. I think he reminds me a lot of Zambrotta. We all know when Zambrotta was brought to Juve, he was brought in from Bari as a winger, attacking midfielder. And then I think it was it Ancelotti that turned him into the left? Was it Marcio Lippi? I'm trying to remember now.
I think I can't recall off the top of my head. Maybe Lippy.
I think it was. It just turned him into this monster of a left fullback, and he could also play right. But I think with Bernardeschi, he's got tremendous stamina. He's got a wicked left foot. You touched on it before. We can't cross a ball. He gives you that option as well. He can whip a ball in, and he gives you that natural progression, maybe starting further back. And he's a trier. Bernardeschi, I mean, you can't fault the guy. He tries his heart out. The crowd are on his back, the Italian media is on his back, and us as Juventino are on his back as well. But in amongst all that, there is a good player there. I just think the guy constantly gets played out of position all
Yeah,
the time. I mean, he never plays a position more than 2 or 3 games on a row. So yeah, I think it's a big possibility he could fit right into that left wing back position.
yeah. I mean, when you look at his traits characteristically, when it comes to crossing the ball, yeah, he's got it. He could do that. His crosses are great. He gives you the ability to do that from the spot, like dead balls off that left side. Even right, should we try to play him there, but obviously he's left-footed and makes sure more sense as a left wing back. But it's just another option should Quadrado go down. I think you have no choice but to play someone on their off foot, because the guys that could play wingback are obviously Sandro, Pellegrini, Berna, Quadrado. Kulishevsky could be an option, but I'd rather him higher up the
Yeah, no,
pitch because of his
I think
ability, right? I
yeah,
think he could do it, but I don't want him there. It doesn't make
yeah.
sense to have him there. You want him up front because of his technical ability and his strength and his ability to score and assist. So I want him up there. Yeah, I think Bernardeschi could do it. He's got the drive, he's got the legs. I mean, we're stuck with him. Why not? That's
I
my
think
tip. Why not?
I think I think Bernardeschi, unless he plays in that position, Alberto, I don't think the guy's going to get much minutes playing up front. I think those slots are taken because I think we need to just content ourselves that Douglas Costa is going to remain this year because I don't think he'd get much Mercado around. So we've got Douglas Costa, Ronaldo, Dybala, Kulusevski, and obviously the number 9. So you can't see Bernardeschi getting much minutes at all in a 3-5-2 formation. So I think that's probably the best position for him to get some minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, Antonio, have a lot of questions from Juventini that came in from Twitter, and we're going to try our best now to go through them and see what we got. Some that we may have already spoken about, we'll kind of mention and maybe, move on here. But Daniel writes in, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if the results don't go Juve's way in the first few games under Pirlo, how long do you think fans will be patient with him? Do you want to start this one or do you want me to? Because I think we naturally won't have any patience. Just naturally. I think realistically, I think the emotional side of us won't have patience because we want to continue winning. You know, this winning has forced us to almost think always unrealistically. You know,
Yeah.
Juve should not lose a match. We shouldn't lose ever. We should win. We should go undefeated every year in Serie A. You know, we should be always in semis, you know, of Champions League and whatnot. This winning has just produced this mentality of just an unrealistic almost expectation. I said when we assigned Pirlo, my expectations are like almost wiped out from where they were before, which was looking for trebles. I'm not looking for the treble anymore with Pirlo. I'm looking for finally seeing progression in the team's play. I'm looking for them to start building clubs again that make sense with the players they acquire. I'm looking for us to just regain some of the identity that we've lost on the pitch. However, I will keep Serie A as the main objective because I feel we shouldn't lose that, no matter if we have a first-year coach or whatever, you know. But adding these other competitions will truly test Pirlo's flexibility and what we're going to be able to do, especially Champions League. But my main objective will be Serie A. I believe we should always be able to achieve that with the club we have, with the players we have. So that doesn't change. But the rest, I will be a little more lenient. First few results, it depends how it goes for me. Should we be losing if we're losing tight matches where we're actually, you know, just unlucky, unfortunate, I can deal with that if we're playing well. But if we start seeing the same crap we were seeing before where it made no sense and it was broken, which I don't believe we will, to be honest, I would lose patience. But if we're playing well, that's all I can ask for, to be honest. And I will be patient. But I don't know about the Juventini out there because I think our winning ways are creating these unrealistic expectations all the time. Your thoughts, Antonio?
I think just to answer the question that was made on Twitter, we need to remember that Agnelli was all for Pirlo. With Sarri, it was more, I think, with Nedved and Paratic, I think there was always tension in the air. I don't think Agnelli ever wanted the guy. I think he put the faith in the board, I say. So I think Pirlo will be around for quite some time. You never know with the Italian football world. You know, you're very rarely going to see another Alex Ferguson when he's going to have maybe 10, 15 years at a football club. But we need to, as you say, we need to find an identity. We need to find that style of play and progress from that. I think a lot will be seen in the first couple of games. I think we actually play Roma and we play Napoli. So I think the first half a dozen games, we've got two competitors for the title, as I say. But for me, Serie A, we always need to win. I mean, we're on the cusp of something great. We're on the cusp of winning 10 in a row, which is unprecedented. So we need to take that. That's an absolute minimum. In terms of that dreaded word Champions League, I think post-COVID, I mean, I've been keeping an eye on a lot of the transfers. There's not many teams around about Europe who have improved a hell of a lot. There's not been any big signings. So I think we're kind of been Bayern Munich, who won the Champions League. I don't think they've made a signing. They're more or less, and they've just lost Thiago Alcantara. So they look as if everybody's in the same playing field. So listen, it's up for everybody. But yeah, I think Pirlo, he'll be given time, rightfully so. And we just need to find that identity. I really do. We've been lacking that for a long time now.
Yeah, absolutely. Luis DeVito, who's been a guest several times. How many goals do Ronaldo and Dybala combine for? What are the biggest obstacles at the beginning of the year for Pirlo to solve or get over? How many goals do Ronaldo and Dybala combine for? Honestly, I don't know if it's going to drastically change. And this thing coming in with this number 9, some goals will probably get chewed up there too. With the acquisition of the 9. I think honestly we can expect around the same numbers. I don't know if Ronaldo's necessarily going to go higher. I think we might have a better spread in Pirlo's system, to be honest.
That's what we need. That's what we need.
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's going to be spread out a lot better. I think we're going to see something that's not so solely focused on Cristiano and more of a system.
Yes.
I think it's going to be spread out a lot more evenly. He will still lead us in goals. There's no question in my mind, but you're going to get much more contribution out of some of these other guys. Kulishevsky, Dybala, Dzeko. If Dzeko comes, he's going to get his share. Yeah, I just think it'll be more of a spread. In terms of what the biggest obstacles are at the beginning of the year for Pirlo to solve or get over, honestly, I think the biggest one will be the mentality, regaining that identity that he speaks of, that the Juve way, right? I think it's just bringing us back to that. The 3-5-2 is actually a lot more simplistic when you factor in roles, positions, what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
When it compares to the 4-3-3. And the 4-3-3 has a much higher demand from your players. We were physically unable to match that demand with the roster we had. We couldn't do it. We had a high age, and it came up all the time. The 3-5-2 will help him. I think systematically he's already going to be better off because it's an easier system. The demand will still be high with the high line, everything like that. But I think our guys more than capable. I'm not worried about those at the back. The mids will get their support. In turn, our forwards will get the support. I think the players will be much happier, and they have respect for Pirlo. So Pirlo will already have the dressing room, which was a big obstacle last season. He'll have that already. He'll have the players' respect. I think it's regaining that identity and mentality that we're trying to instill and really live that fino alla fine. Your thoughts, Antonio?
Yeah, I think on the first part with Ronaldo and Dybala, the combined goals, I totally agree. We need to spread these goals out. You look at the big European sides, I think Bayern Munich, when they put 8 past Barcelona, the goals were all spread out. And it's not just a freak event. I mean, the top sides in Europe, they've got goal-scoring midfielders. We've not had a decent goal-scoring midfielder since Marquinhos, Pogba, Vidal, and even Pirlo. They weighed in with their goals. I mean, Dybala's never been a prolific goal scorer. Very rarely is going to exceed 20, 25 goals a season. Ronaldo will still be that main focal point, but we need to spread the goals, and I think that will happen with this change in formation. The main the things Pirlo needs to head on is that period in the game where that old ghost creeps in. We just try to control the game, try to phase it out, and that's when we are so dangerous to ourselves because we become almost complacent that it's going to naturally come. That needs to get knocked out of the side. And I think with Pjanic, Matuidi, Khedira, a lot of these guys going, we're slowly but surely starting to get rid of all that old mentality. I think we need to be 90. I'm not saying 90 minutes. We need to be on the ball, going out, kind of hell for leather, but we need to be on the front foot. I think that's going to be Pirlo's biggest thing, just to get that mentality switch where we're going to win this game, we're not going to close it out, we're going to be in control of this game all the way through. I think the 3-5-2 as well, I think that's going to be our best formation because when you look at it, you can keep all the guys at the back fresh, you can rotate those centre halves. And I mean, if you really needed, Alexandro can be brought in to play that left centre back across the three. I think that was actually spoken about, a bit like Alaba, how he plays that with Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
We've also got, we've got Rabiot, who, by the way, I would actually add him as a new addition because I think post-lockdown he's been our best player. Against Novara, he was outstanding. So we've got Rabiot, Arthur, Bentancur, McKennie and Ramsey for potentially 2 places. So we can rotate those guys. And also up front, where Kulusevski, Dybala, Ronaldo, and obviously the number 9 that comes in, we can really keep these guys fresh because it's going to be a long season. There's not been a big pre-season. We're almost thrown right back into it. So I think squad rotation is going to be very, very important. And playing a 3-5-2 rather than a 4-3-3, it almost gives you that option to do that.
Yeah. And, great touch on that. Absolutely. When it comes to the complacency, it's just, that's 100% right. That complacency, we have to get rid of that. The preferred lineup is one of the questions that comes up. We've got Abdul Rahman, who literally wrote in like 8 questions. We've covered quite a few already, but one of them is, what's your preferred lineup and formation? What do we expect from Pirlo? We've touched on this already. Who's your regista? I'm starting to believe we're not necessarily going to have a true regista. Okay. I think this 3-5-2 has the ability to change into a 3-4-3 with 2 pivots, and granted who is up top playing. I think when you have Dzeko up top, should he come in, obviously becomes finalized, you can have Dzeko up there and you can have Kulusevski as that winger, and it could turn into a 3-4-3. You can then have Costa as one of those wingers since he's in here. When Dybala plays, he can be in behind the actual forwards and whatnot. It gives you a lot of flexibility. The main focus, I think, that's going to be what we need as well from Pirlo is the actual fullbacks attacking, supporting, and maintaining the structure, keeping our midfielders in the middle of the park, not out on the byline in the corners, like keeping the structure just where they need to be in the area, attacking, getting those guys in the box. I think that's what we're going to see. That's what I expect from Pirlo, is just honestly, it's going to make sense. We're going to have a team that will start to let the ball do the work rather than running ourselves ragged and getting nowhere. And all this play that we used to see where every guy needed the ball and had to be at the start, build up. I think we're going to start seeing movement from all these guys, attacking space. Pirlo talks about attacking the space. That's what we need to do. I think that's what we're going to see. All right. Yeah, that's just my thoughts on what we're going to end up seeing. James Martino writes in, who will be the breakout player this season? What is going to be the main formation? With a true number 9, will Ronaldo break the single season goal record? So we kind of touched on what we believe the main formation is going to be. Who will be the breakout player this season? I'll let you go first on who you think the breakout player will be, Antonio.
I think me personally, it's going to be one of those midfielders. I think McKennie has definitely got the potential. I really hope so. I hope he's not going to be one of those guys where if he has a couple of bad games, he might feel the pressure and then he seems to just kind of fade into the background. But I think me personally, if I had to pick one, I'm a big fan of Kulusevski. I think the guy's going to. I watched his press conference today as well. I mean, he's got a level head for 20. I mean, the guy's 20 years old. I think he's going to be my breakout player for the season.
Nice. Yeah, it's hard to bet against Kulishevsky. He had a great season last year with Parma, Kenny's got the potential. When we listen to the news coming out of the training sessions, these guys are absolutely crushing it in the training sessions. Arthur,
Yeah.
McKennie, Kulishevsky is highly, highly talked about almost after every training session. One guy I'm looking to is probably Pellegrini, because I honestly say he will take that bull by the horns and he will be our starting left wing back.
I hope so.
And I was having this discussion with Luis DeVito actually, and I said, how long do you think it'll take before Pellegrini takes Sandro's starting job? I give it 2 months. Do you think that's going to happen by the end of the season? Do you think 2 months is realistic? Do you see it happening? What are your thoughts?
Well, the guy's got a good chance to take his position almost straight away because he's obviously going to play on Sunday. I was sad to see Pellegrini go last season. I think he had a brilliant season with Roma. And the guy's Italian. I mean, I hate to say it, but we do lack that.
Or with Cagliari, yeah, he was with Cagliari last season. He did well. I thought he did well, but I have high expectations of this kid. I think he's going to take the job, make it his own. And I think we've been like dying to see that position played the way even Spinazzola played it, before. He came in for Sandro and it was like, oh my God. And it's like, this is how we needed to play this position. However, Sandro could turn things around because he was at his best for us when we played in a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
So he could also turn things around and maybe he keeps that job. But my money's on Pellegrini. With a true number 9, will Ronaldo break the single season goal record? I'm going to say no. I think it's going to be spread out more. You agree, Antonio, it looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ronaldo's had his best season for for the years he'll be with us this season. I think he'll struggle to do better. I hope so. I really do.
However, the way we want to play now means a lot more energy, attack, and aggression in that area. Maybe more PKs, and he banged a lot in. So it could happen. My initial instinct would say no. It'll be more spread out, more team based. Dean Massaro writes in: will Pirlo deploy a crazy new innovative formation that will blow people's minds and reinvent football as we know it? Part of his liquid football thesis. I don't think it's going to be any kind of innovative formation or anything, and I don't think what he's really come about in his thesis is all reinventive. It's just what he believes in and total football. It's just everybody contributing to all phases of the game and making it all blend in to total football. Whereas your attack is made up of many ideas. Your counter attack also includes your goalkeeper, your defenders, and what happens with the ball, the transitional phase. It's just all about making everything one. And I don't think we're going to get any kind of crazy formation or anything like that. I think it's going to be really, really straightforward what he expects from every role as laid out in his thesis. I think it's just going to start making sense. I think it's going to be fun again to watch Juve.
Yeah, me too.
Kaliji the Rebel writes in: Ramsey has been getting unnecessary hate despite performing good, but others are not getting anything despite missing sitters and performing shit. Ramsey will shine under Pirlo. He says Ramsey will shine under Pirlo. Do you believe that? Yes or no?
It's a hard one. Obviously, being over in the UK, I've grew to. I mean, I love Aaron Ramsey as a football player when he was at Arsenal. It was sad to see how things developed for him. Obviously, with injuries, a new season for him, a new culture. I would love to see him thrive under Pirlo, but I just don't think it's up to him. It's up to his if the guy can stay healthy or not.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I saw him every time I thought he was going to turn the corner for us. It kind of just didn't happen. And I kind of feel like I don't know if he's necessarily going to shine under Pirlo. Maybe, because maybe everybody's going to just play well under Pirlo because of the system and the style and the tactics. So we'll see. Time will tell. Luis Cuevas writes in, I know you will be talking formations at length, but how do you see Pirlo managing Kulusevski, Dybala, Ronaldo, and Dzeko up top? I think Kulu has the ability to make himself a must-start player, and there's only so many minutes to go around. Honestly, yeah, we've talked about it. I think it could be different based on when you see Kulusevski in there and when you see Dybala in there. Dzeko's going to need rest too. I don't think Dzeko's going to be in there every match too. And
No.
if anything, he has a ton of options of what he can do. Maybe when Ronaldo gets rest, Dzeko's up top and Dybala's his second striker. And then that could be another route to go. Kulusevski becoming a must start, that's a great problem to have because Dybala, in my opinion, is a must start. Ronaldo is a must start. You know what I mean? Adding Dzeko into the mix, this is a good problem to have. How is Pirlo going to manage it? Again, I think rotating in and out of a 3-5-2, a 3-4-3, given who he has in there. I'm also thinking we may from time to time see a 4-3-3 still, occasionally. And again, it's just going to depend on personnel. When he plays the 4-3-3, I would fully anticipate possibly one of the midfielders dropping back to make that three-man line in order to create that width so that when we attack, it still becomes a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 based on what he wants to do. He could also, depending who he uses as a right back, just shift the line to make that three. But he's made it very clear in the attacking phase, he wants a high line based of three defenders as that base up top, just to cover all the areas, the room over top of the space over top of the wing backs, and then obviously centrally as well. So yeah, I think he's going to have a number of options. Anything you want to add to that, Antonio?
I think, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to play football at a decent level. I think, see all this talk with formations, 3-5-2s, 3-4-3s, 4-3-3. Anyone that's played football at any kind of level will know it's about how you apply yourself on a football pitch. If you've got the desire to win the ball back, the enthusiasm, and even just a smile on your face to play the game, then formations is just something that's written on a bit of paper. I think we need to get away from this 3-5-2. I hate when people say Conte didn't triumph with this 3-5-2 formation in Europe. Conte never had Cristiano Ronaldo. Conte never had Paulo Dybala. The team's evolved since then. Many a times I've seen Bayern Munich, who were all amazed at the football they played. Many a times this season they played with three defenders and the two full-backs in the five-man midfield. Manchester City, okay, they came a cropper near the end of the Champions League, but many times they played with three at the back. So I think we need to get away from that and just look at how these guys are going to conduct themselves on a football pitch. And from the evidence we've seen so far, I think that enthusiasm has been brought back, and Pirlo won't have a problem leaving a couple of guys out. He's got the backing of Ronaldo, Chiellini, the older heads, Buffon. They'll back him. Everyone will be fine in that sense.
Peter Yan writes in, what do you believe will be the single most defining characteristic of Pirlo's Juventus? Do you feel we've fixed our midfield woes? If so, what will be our new Achilles heel? Honestly, I think the defining characteristic of Pirlo's Juve will be belief. To be honest, I think he's going to reinstill this belief
Yeah.
amongst the team, the players. They're going to be confident.
Hunger,
Okay.
hunger.
Pirlo exudes confidence. Like I watch him on the sideline and he looks so cool against Novara. Like and I get it, it's a friendly or whatnot, but he's still making his calls, doing his shouts. But the whole time he's got this aura about him that is just always calm, cool, collected. Even when I saw him shouting and stuff like that, it was still in a,
Yeah.
it didn't seem so like, like the thing was sorry when I watched him and he's
Oh,
yelling.
please, man, please.
I'm like, you're yelling and
Oh,
screaming, from the sideline like
yeah,
an idiot, but your players, like there's nothing there. You're making the same mistakes over and over and over with your lineup, and you're out there yelling, and these guys don't even respect you in the first place. And you could tell, everybody could tell, it's just strange. We won that trophy. He was out there for a trophy for a bit, and then he walks away from the team. And it's just
yeah,
like, really, man? Like, I don't get it. Pirlo has these players, has their belief. They're going to have belief in his ideas. And
yeah,
it's already evident that they believe in his ideas and what he's trying to achieve because we've already seen them implement in such a short period of time. There was no belief with Sarri. Okay.
no,
Um, the comments made by Sarri afterwards, after winning, if you could win with me,
yeah,
you guys
nah,
are strong. This guy didn't believe in himself.
no.
Pirlo believes in himself. This guy
Totally.
oozes confidence, and he looks like a man who will not fail. And I think personally, the characteristics will be belief and confidence. What do you think, Antonio?
You've answered everything I was going to say, Alberto. 100% hunger, belief, enthusiasm, just a freshness, and
Yes.
the players know that Pirlo's appointment came from the top. The players know this came from away up the top. With Sarri, I think it was friction from the top filtered to the board, filtered to the players, and you touched on it. I mean, I watched that on, it was an Instagram post, I think, where he was congratulating all the guys coming in, and it was captured saying, obviously, what he said, if you guys can win with me, you can win. I mean, do you to think that was probably the message that he was saying for all the duration of last season, and then we were still getting, for us to win the league with that guy makes, it's good stuff, it's
Yeah.
it's
The other thing
unbelievable.
is too is, I mean, you got Sarri coming into Juve that's won so much, and the guy's won nothing. He won a Europa League. You know what I mean? Pirlo's won everything.
Yeah,
He's won it all as a player. So he's been in these adverse situations, and as a manager, it changes. It is different being in these scenarios as a manager than as opposed to a player. However, he's been through them, and the experience that we all want from him, he's only going to have to gain by being in these adverse
yeah,
situations. Everything else leading up to it fits. He's been a part of Juve. He knows what Juve is all about. He's trying to reinstill it in the team. His thesis, what he wants out of football, I agree with completely. I'm all for it. I'm all for everything. My initial reaction was a little skeptical based on the experience.
yeah.
But it's something that has to come. Um, I am a little bit nervous and excited all at the same time. It's mixed emotions with Pirlo. It could go either way. It could go very, very badly, or
We're,
it
we're
could,
smiling, Alberto.
or it could
We're
become,
smiling. We're happy now. We're up. We're ready to
yeah,
go
yeah.
again.
It could end up very, very badly for sure, but it could be something really, really amazing and fantastic. So you don't know. We needed a change, and financially we were not set to. We're still
Yeah,
paying. Sorry, we had just wrapped up, still paying Allegri. I didn't see them spending big money on a manager. Pirlo we brought in, he's making like 1 million, 1.5.
Yeah, in that.
Let's give it the go, right? I'm behind him 100% this year. So, have we fixed our midfield woes? If so, what will be our new Achilles heels? I think, again, based on the system, what we've brought in will be good for our midfield. I think the system alone will help us much, much more. When you look at some of these other teams and what they're able to do, and you look at the names they have, it's not anything impressive as far as players go on paper. It's
Exactly.
the system. It's that
Exactly.
understanding. It's that cohesive unit.
Yeah.
So have we fixed our midfield woes? I would like a driving midfielder from in there to play that's really dangerous at driving the ball in there, in and around the area. Kulishevsky could be it, but I think he's going to be used higher up the pitch. But I'm happy with who we have going into it. What will be our Achilles heel? Injuries. I think every year our big thing is injuries.
Yeah.
If we can keep that down, honestly, the 3-5-2 makes sense for us, and I think it's going to be really, really good for us. I think injuries.
Exactly.
Your thoughts?
I think if we fix the midfield, time will tell. However, we have made massive strides to really eradicate the problems we had last season, where there was football. I mean, football's it's really simple. You get the ball, you pass it, you move. That's probably fundamental, basic stuff of football. Things we never done last season. All the guys wanted the ball played into into the feet. There was no movement at all. There was no drive from midfield. And this year we've added a lot of legs in the midfield. We've added a lot of energy, and we've added a lot of drive. I think the guy who can carry us, what you were just saying there, Alberto, I think the guy who could drive the ball from midfield and run, I think it could be Rabiot. I think when he gets going, he's going to take a lot of stopping. He's a big lad.
Yeah.
And the goal against Milan just shows that it can be done. The Achilles heel, I think obviously we've changed a few of the coaches now, the training staff. We've got the old, the kind of old guard back with Conte. I think the staff was from Conte's first couple of years. So I hope we don't see a lot of these kind of stupid muscle injuries. Douglas Costa was really prone to it. Ramsey was prone to it last season. Alexandro a couple of times was prone to muscle injuries. So I think if we can stay injury free, I don't really see an Achilles heel. And I'm not being biased, but I think the 3-5-2 will suit us. I think there'll be a lot of pivots in that 3-5-2 formation.
Yeah, absolutely. We have got still just a few more questions as we wrap up here. Joshua Fontaine writes, what do you think will be the biggest difference between Pirlo and Sarri in the team? I think we already touched on that, and I think it's going to be that belief is going to come back and that confidence, that swag, right? I think we're going to lose that uncertainty and uneasiness we had that you could see in the team, right? That's going to be the biggest difference, I think, is confidence and belief. Antonio?
Yeah, I think the whole difference between Sarri and Pirlo, I mean, it's pretty evident. Sarri was a stranger in that side. I mean, he was still in love with Napoli. I mean, let's not go into the comments he made after the Napoli game. And I mean, the guy was just, he wasn't suited to Juventus. As simple as he never bought into it. They never bought into him. He was a stranger. So much so that I've got friends in Italy who are AC Milan fans. They actually hate Pirlo for what he's done. Pirlo loves Juve. The guy's got more allegiance to AC Milan than he has Juve. But he's inherited that. He's embodied that Juventus way. I mean, he's almost forgotten about the kind of the glory days at Milan, and he just wants to be a part of Juve. That alone, that's your change right there. Sarri never gave you that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fit. It's as simple as that. It just fits. It makes sense, right? Rusitano writes, is this considered a rebuilding year even though Ronaldo's on the team? I don't think it's a rebuilding. I think, again, it's just a transitional year. I don't think, and I said this again last year, even when Sarri was coming in and whatnot, Juve financially, I mean, even though we're, struggling at the moment and whatnot, we should not be in a position of ever being in a true full rebuild. When you're consistently making this amount of money through the competitions, finishing top, you should never be in a true rebuild. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just transitional. We're transitioning into a new coach. We're transitioning into becoming a younger club and whatnot, and transitioning with the formation lineups and everything like that. Is it a rebuilding? No, I wouldn't say so. Antonio?
No, I totally agree. I don't think a team of Juventus stature should never be in a rebuild. We've got too many good players. We need to forget. Let's not forget we're Italian champions, and nobody's strengthened round about us.
You bet. Chris from Wakefield has a couple questions too, saying starting lineup for Sunday, and what will the lineup look like at the end of the year? So we kind of touched on what the starting lineup projection is. We talked on our starting lineups, what we thought they would be. But he says one change you would make, and what it's kind of going to look like by the end of the year. That's a solid question. I mean, let's answer this saying Dzeko will be in the team, okay? And that deal's finalized. What will it look like by the end of the year? I've already gone out and said I believe Pellegrini will be a staple of this club at that left wing back position. Right wing back, I see Cuadrado being that guy. In the middle of the park, I think Arthur's going to be in there, Rabiot, and I truly believe by the end of the season, McKennie will be one of those in that top three midfield mix. Bentancur is a question mark for me whether or not he's going to jump this year or if he's going to remain the same. That's going to be interesting for me. Bentancur obviously looks to get the nod this Sunday against Sampdoria and being in front of the three-man back with Ramsey and Rabiot being the pressing mids out of that five-man midfield there with the wing backs. I don't know about Bentancur if he's going to be able to make that jump or whatnot. I think Arthur's going to got to be in there as one of the mains by the end of the season, you know? So I look at this projected lineup. I think Arthur's going to be in there. I think it's going to be tight between him and Bentancur, depending on the one-man pivot. If he starts going with two and keeping that third one higher up, which could possibly be Dybala, it could possibly be Kulusevski. We don't necessarily know. There's a lot of variables. Kulusevski, is he going to be a main guy by the end of the season? I believe so. But then you've got Dzeko, Dybala, Ronaldo. This is tough. What's it going to look like by the end of the year? I have no idea. It's going to be really, really hard. I find it hard to believe if Dybala stays with this club, enters a season, that he's not a go-to. It's just, will Kulusevski be able to sit Dybala? I don't think so. I think Dybala will have to be a lock somewhere in there. But will Dzeko make it so that we have to have a 9 in there come end of the season? I don't necessarily believe that. You know, I think you could end up being Ronaldo, Dybala, Kulusevski quite easily as those top three. Like, what do you think, Antonio? It's a really tough question. It's a hard question.
It's a good question. It really is. Almost impossible to answer.
Oh yeah.
I think when you were just talking there, the thing that struck me most when you were mentioning all these names is healthy competition. We've finally got that healthy competition for players. Like Alexandra, I'll use him as an example. Alexandra, we're so hard on the guy, but last season he had to play every single game. We had no cover for him.
Yeah.
This year, every single player can say, well, do you know what? See if I'm... And Pirlo will... He has... One of the things I've seen on Italian media where there's a lot of kind of the new guys who spoke as well, Pirlo has that conversations with the players as well. He speaks to the players. So I think Sarri wasn't doing. He takes them to one side and speaks to them. So if a player says, you know what, boss, I don't feel like it, I'm feeling a bit off colour, or I think one of the guys should have been before me. We don't have that hindrance where we can't bring someone in to do a job. We need healthy. Listen, you look, Juve plays 60, 70 games a season, and sometimes even more depending how far into competitions they go. So there's a lot of games, suspensions, injuries, players off form. We need a team where you can't pick a first 11 because they all do a job. That's what you need: 15, 16, 17 first 11 players.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Competition is going to be a big thing. And yeah, we needed the coverage. What happened to us down that stretch last season? Granted, COVID through, so many matches in such a condensed time period, but it was options. We didn't have options. We talked about this earlier on in this podcast. Options. We're going to have options now. Pirlo is going to be utilizing them. Look forward to that. It's going to be great. We need it. We got the last two, and the first one we're going to go with is from Rome Juventino. He's been a guest as well. Great guy. Top 4 predictions for Serie A. So this is going to be our second to last one. And Antonio, kick us off with your top 4 predictions.
I'm just going to go for it. Juve, obviously. 10 in a row, got to be. Second one's a hard one, I would say I don't think Atalanta will repeat the season they had last. I would love to see it because I'm all for the underdogs. I think it's going to be Juve, Merda, AC Milan, and then Roma. That's what I'm going to go for. I think Roma are making some good moves.
I think we're pretty damn close. I had Juve top. We're going to do it. It's going to be the 10th consecutive, unprecedented. Second, I did have Merda there. Third, I had Roma or Milan. I was kind of on the fence, and I think Lazio still gets in that top 4 somewhere. So I'm kind of like, I don't know, but for the sake of answering the question, Merda second. I'm gonna go with probably Milan, then Lazio. I think that's how the top 4 is gonna go. Roma, I think they'll be in the mix. I think Atalanta won't be far off. Those could easily be your Europa Leagues. It's going to be a tight one. I think for those 3-4 spots are going to be really, really tight. I think there'll be some separation from obviously the top and second. The last question, and I thought this was a wicked question from Eric Asternio Gibbs, who's obviously been a guest several times. Predictions on players that will thrive under Pirlo, and who are your dark horse players going into this season? He obviously put in parentheses at the end there. This may be difficult because he believes that as a whole, the entire squad will be enhanced under Pirlo. And we've talked about that in this pod as well. And I think overall as a team, we're going to see an improvement and just how our guys are utilized and the system itself helping all our players produce and be more efficient. But who do you think are players that are going to thrive under Pirlo? And who's your dark horse pick for a player that could be surprising?
I think the first one that will really thrive under him will be Arthur. I think just because of the guy's position, who better to learn off than the maestro himself, especially playing in that pivot if he does. Obviously, I think the guy eventually will play. I mean, we signed him for 75 million. He's got to start. He gives you that bit of. It gives you something different in the midfield as well. If he's got 2 workhorses, McKennie, Bentancur, Rabiot, whoever it may be, I think he could really thrive and learn a lot of Pirlo. My dark horse, and purely because of this formation we'll be playing, if we go for the 3-5-2, my dark horse I think will be Demiral. I think he'll learn a lot off Igor Tudor as well. And I think going forward as well, he's a massive threat. He's got aerial capabilities and he's got that natural fire that he looks a bit like Paulo Montero as well, where he takes no prisoners and he just embodies everything Juve should be. So he's my dark horse.
Nice. Players that will thrive under Pirlo, I have Kulishevsky and Arthur. as who I think will absolutely thrive in the system and what he wants to do, how he wants to play the game. Um, yeah, as far as dark horse players, I think my dark horse is going to be McKenny. I think McKenny will turn a lot of heads in this system and how Pirlo wants to play. And yeah, this he's got no pressure on him. You know, there's no big signing, there's no big money. Like it's loaned. He's got nothing but everything to gain from being at a club like Juventus and being able to maybe steal a starting spot and be talked
Yeah,
about that by the end of the year.
yeah, yeah. Why not?
McKenny's a big, big dark horse for me, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him as a one of those mains come end of the season where he's easily, if not on that starting sheet, your instant sub, like your second, to your key guy. I could easily see that happening. And actually, one of Chris from Wakefield's questions was, what do you think the percentage of matches is going to be that McKenny plays in by the end of the year? If I had to guess, I think he's probably going to be. The nice thing is, again, we talked about is the options. We have options this year. You've got Rabiot, you've got Bentancur, you've got Arthur, you've got McKenny, and you've got Ramsey should he can stay healthy. Whether or not we add another is still up in the air. I don't really know how financially, but whether we do or not, still up in the air. I think McKenny, it's realistic to say he can easily be maybe somewhere close to 40%, to be honest.
Yeah,
Because I think Pirlo's going to be rotating these guys, and I think it's not going to be so set in stone and rigid like it has been for the previous couple of years. Because, again, I think overall the system formation and everything is going to get the best out of the team as a whole. And
yeah.
it's much easier to plug and play players as it was previously. Your thoughts? What do you think? Is that a realistic percentage for McKenny? You think it's going to be much, much lower?
I think I want to retract my previous statement. I said Demiral was my dark horse. I keep forgetting about this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it. I was really eager to see how he performed against Novara. It reminds me a lot of, it's hard to say, but I think I see a lot of, well, I'm going to say a Juve player. He's got a lot of Edgar Davids about him. He looks as if he's got tenacity. He looks as if he's level-headed. I see he's integrated well. I think I've seen him posted on social media. He was out with Delict and Kulusevski, obviously English-speaking. So it looks as if he's really kind of integrated into this, and obviously the club. But yeah, I think I would go 50%. I think he'll play half the games that are out there because he gives you that freshness. He's dynamic. I mean, I think the Schalke manager said that he can play loads of different positions. He can play behind the forwards. He can play behind the midfield. He can play as a mezzala. So I think he'll play. I think you'll see this guy as a permanent fixture sooner than later.
Yeah, would not be surprised whatsoever. And to wrap up, of course, we've got the match against Sampdoria on Sunday. Predictions, my friend Antonio, as we wrap up. What do you have for the final score? How does Juve kick off the season? How does Pirlo's official first match go? What are your thoughts?
This is an easy one. I think we're going to win 4-0. It's purely because when Juve opened up their new stadium and Pirlo made his debut against Parma in a 3-5-2 formation, we won 4-0. I think it was a 4-1, sorry. I think it was a penalty in the end for Parma. So I'll go 4-1 Juve.
4-1. I'm gonna go 3-0. We get the clean sheet. We get 3 goals. Celebrate. Everybody's happy. Pirlo kicks it off, and I think it's gonna be. I think it's going to be nice to watch Juve. And this will be finally, a team that we can actually hold some substance to what we see out of Juve,
We
because
hope so.
everybody's knocking it down to Novara. But this will be good. I predict the 3-0 scoreline. We're going to win, and we're going to celebrate, kick the season off right, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Antonio, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back. Thank you for joining me. Everybody,
Yeah.
thanks for tuning in. Of course, follow on Twitter if you aren't. It's at JuveCast. Check out Striped Hearts Apparel if you haven't already on Twitter. And stay tuned for the big launch online and a ton of new designs. And we now customize orders for Juventini. So if you've got a moment or a player you want to capture, reach out and we'll design something specifically for you. Thanks again. And we'll talk to you with the post-match podcast after the match this Sunday versus Sampdoria. As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.